We have finally more details on World of Warcraft's player housing. We've been waiting for this for nigh on 15 years, and it's finally coming. And not only that, they are taking direct shots at their competition. Let's take a look at what they've announced. Who could have expected this announcement to come out now? We thought the teaser was enough until midnight, but no, we got plenty of details. And what cannot be ignored about this is the blatant and flagrant attack on Final Fantasy XIV directly. You might not have clocked it if you've not played 14, but goddamn, this one line alone is everything that people complain about in Final Fantasy XIV. But we've got to ask the question, why is player housing so important in the first place? Let's establish first why housing is important, because I don't think a lot of people realize the scope of this thing. Most of you are probably excited for player housing because you want to design your own masterpiece, you want to build your own homestead, you want to do all those things. That is a huge part of it, for sure. However, the big thing about player housing is user-generated content. If you're playing retail War Within right now, you'll have no doubt been aware of massive amounts of complaints of like, there's just nothing to do. I'm just waiting for things to do. And things like Plunderstorm, Classic, all those events are wildly more popular. We recently saw over 300,000 people watching Classic World of Warcraft duels and doing a Nixia. Like, people are definitely more invested in that than they are in what's happening in retail. This is the advantage of player housing. Having experienced it now for several years in other video games, not just FF14, I can tell you some of the wildest, most exciting moments come from players just being able to have fun and express themselves in silly ways. Being able to create boxing arenas, being able to create massive murder houses, things like that, are vital in order to just create your own fun. It sounds strange, but if World of Warcraft can embrace that and grow on this, they are calling it in their announcement an evergreen piece of content, then they are going to have so much endless fun that they don't have to make in the background. The biggest problem with MMO development is always the fact that it takes time and longer than it takes players to consume the content they make. Player housing, on the other hand, is a never-ending stream of content that allows the players to just have fun, regardless of what day it is, or regardless of what patch comes out. Neighborhoods are coming. This is massive. The fact that you can choose to be with your friends, who will get the poor house, who will get the great house overlooking the cliffs of Ashara, all those kind of things are wonderful because it's a big, vital part of what they're trying to achieve with their pillar system. They want community, and that's what housing is all about. One of the biggest drawbacks I see in other games that have housing is either no neighbors or neighbors that don't interact in any way because you don't know who's been picked up. The lack of a lottery is so vitally important because you have disappointment. You end up also with a big issue, which has happened in 14, of some people manipulating multiple accounts, being able to buy entire neighborhoods to themselves, and the limited space means people just don't end up getting housing. That is not going to be the case in World of Warcraft. What we do want to see, though, without getting so excited and so mind blown, is what is this construction going to look like? One of their pillars is, it doesn't matter if you've had 3D experience, you should be able to pick up and play this system very, very simply. This is a big ask. It's not easy. Are they going to draw inspiration from, say, WildStar? WildStar allowed you to take any item in the game and stretch it, grow it, shrink it, do whatever you want so that that small log that you found on the floor could be extended to be a huge tree trunk that may have been felled in a forest. Things like that. Or will they go with a more Guild Wars 2 style, where there's individual areas you can still grow and stretch things and position them where you want, but there are limitations on what you can do. It's entirely up to them where they're going to go, but right now with this preview, imagination is the biggest thing we're looking for. If we look at the preview video they did, it was all very, very dense. We had tons and tons and tons of items all filling that area, which could lead to one of their potential problems. Guys, what I'm about to say is not me being like, oh, it's going to be like that. I'm not saying that, okay? I'm actually very, very excited for this, but there are always potential pitfalls, and we'll have to see if this is how it plays out here. World of Warcraft has always tried to stay within its thematic bubble. It likes the idea that you are a horde character, therefore player housing may be constricted to a horde environment. So sure, we might see orcish houses, and in fact in the concept art you'll see they're very orcish Durator style houses, and we might see Forsaken getting their things, and the Trolls getting their things, and the Taurens, etc. However, if I was to levy a piece of advice towards Blizz, and some of you might disagree with this, which is why I'm saying it's not a big negative. Letting people outside of the constraints of that theme is a really big deal when it comes to player housing. Let me show you some examples of this. In 14 and in other games, we have had people do things like housing competitions. Take a look at what was allowed to be done because people could break out of those constraints. We had people recreate Resident Evil in the game. We had people recreate hospitals within the game. We had people recreate arenas, battle arenas, boxing arenas. We had nightclubs, discos, all these kinds of things happening. All because people were allowed to bend that thematic scope a little bit outside of what the actual game's main story entails. However, it's not that far out. World of Warcraft has all these things. In Legion, we've had spaceships, technology, aliens crash landing. All those things exist within the game. Goblin tech is all there. So please, for the love of God, in my opinion, allow people to bend out of that a little bit. If people want to have a crazy, weird gingerbread house or a space house, let them do that. If they want that classically designed style, which also exists, allow them to do that. But the flexibility should be there to create the perfect troll camp all the way to a glorious laboratory or observatory or whatever it is that they feel fits their character. Because one of the big things they're trying to sell here is the ability for players to roleplay. Now, I know a lot of people look down on roleplay. I can tell you way more people enjoy it than we'll let on, especially when it's a one-off. They're going to this roleplay event to have fun with. I was like you as well. I was a massive skeptic until I went and did it for a fun night. And it was amazing. It was incredible. When you get a bunch of players who all want to join in, they have fun, they create transmogs around this environment, and they just go for wild for a night, maybe do it again 6 months later, it's an incredible experience. But in order to achieve that, creativity is everything. They want this user-generated content, creativity. Let people bend the rules. The last thing we want is everybody to be like, oh, you have your cool chair over here. I have mine over here. And further to those concerns, though, there is a couple of lines in here we should take note of, such as the working together and collecting rewards as a neighborhood or a community. Now, we know you can have public servers where you'll just join randoms and you can have your own communities, but what does working together mean? Obviously, this gives rise to the fears that we had during Garrisons. Practicality. Are we going to have farms in there? Are we going to have mining and stuff in there? Which I personally believe won't happen. I think they learnt their lesson from Garrisons, that having this kind of practical, usable approach inside closed-off instanced areas just isn't healthy for the game as a whole. They do want people around the city, so I'm not too worried about it. What I suspect this is you can work together in order to create big decorations or some sort of facilities within there that are just for fun or for cosmetic purposes. Personally, I would really like it if there are essentially like meth neighborhoods that haven't worked together and they haven't got like a working sewage system or anything like that. It's a complete ghetto, all the way to the top tier space age living the dream sort of things that you might get if you do work together and progress your area. But it's something we're going to keep an eye out on these things. Having said all that, absolutely not being negative on this. This is way more than I ever expected from them. Whenever I've managed to speak to the devs on site about player housing, someone's been, this must have been years in the making, because this is a huge bolt onto the game that is going to allow users to create their own content. And goddamn, can I tell you, from some of you who've never stepped foot outside of the bounds of Azeroth, when you experience this, when you understand what it's like to have a real community feel, which, let's be honest, guys, has been lacking in retail World of Warcraft for such a long time and is one of the main draws to people playing the classic versions where community and your player mattered, not just your class. This is a hugely exciting moment for World of Warcraft and risks, once again, World of Warcraft just becoming the absolute most dominant MMO that's going to exist for the next 10 years. We'll keep an eye on it and we'll come back to you soon. Thank you so much for watching, and remember, check out a display and things like that of all these wonderful things that we've been creating here and World of Warcraft created themselves. We have a massive discount code with them. They're good friends of ours. Check it out and we'll be back soon. Bye, guys.